I'm Jane Farnham from Great British Talent, and welcome to our series of video podcasts where we meet our talented speakers who are all available for your corporate events. Essentially, it's an opportunity for you to find out more about our wonderful speakers, what they talk about, how they can help you, and how they can help you add value to your business. So today I am chatting to Peak Performance Strategist. I have to say that very carefully and put my teeth back in. Abigail Ireland. Abigail, welcome.
Thank you, Jane. Really good to be here today as well. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it too, because I was looking at your profile online and reading up a bit about you before we got talking. And boy, you tick a lot of boxes. Resilience, performance, health and well-being, nutrition, sustainability, inclusivity, leadership. I mean, is there anything you don't cover? Tell me a little bit about your business background. As looking at the biography with all those details, it looks like there isn't much you haven't done, and you still look so young.
Thank you, Jane. That's very nice of you. No, I did start in banking, so spent about 10 years of my career in various different roles in private equity and acquisitions in the deal teams. And so a lot of it was, long hours and high pressure deadlines, that kind of environment, and working with really good people as well. And then over the years, I'd moved to Australia, carried on working in the corporate world, and got really more into my fitness. And I guess when you're living in Sydney and, you go to Bondi Beach and you see everyone, you're like, I can't not look after my health a little bit more. So I was always into it, but I got more into it. And then I trained up as a personal trainer, started training people alongside my work, and got into nutrition a little bit more. And so it kind of evolved into what I do today. And I just thought I can't do everything separately, but the kind of focusing on how your nutrition impacts your performance at work and how you can feel more energized when you look after your body, and how you can be more productive at work. All of it came together into the work I do now on Peak Performance.
That's really wonderful. I love it when people have so many different sort of areas of interest and expertise, and then they come together and create this really holistic approach. I want to get into the nutrition because I think it's something that we really do. We take our health for granted. I think people are very reluctant to take responsibility for their own health these days. And we eat things with 10, 20 ingredients, and I think we need to get back to basics. But before we touch upon the holistic aspect of nutrition, I want to talk about peak performance, because I often get asked for speakers who talk about performance and trying to develop performance. So it's kind of a bit of a buzzword. What's it mean to you in the terms of the workplace?
This is one of the things which I spent a lot of time really trying to think, what is my angle on peak performance? Because for me, I think it puts a lot of people off as well. So when people hear the term peak performance, they think, oh my gosh, I need to have climbed Mount Everest or done some crazy, endurance event or something to be classified as a peak performer. And my view is that everyone can achieve peak performance, but we've all got our own versions of peak performance. So it's not about doing one thing really well and then burning out. It's about making sure that we can operate at, bring our best self every single day to our work, to our personal life, and be able to do that again and again and again on a sustainable basis. So with more focus, with more energy, with less stress, without burning out. And I think what I've noticed, Jane, is a lot of the time in the corporate world in particular, I've seen people saying we're a high performing team, everyone's a peak performer. But it's people are being pushed and pushed and pushed, and then they burn out. So to me, that isn't peak performance. Peak performance is where we can really every day be the best we can be, and we finish each day feeling accomplished.
And it's maintaining that, isn't it? It's sort of, like you say, otherwise it leads to burnout, and that's not going to it might get you somewhere very quickly, but it's not sustainable. So is that what you mean when you talk about sustainability?
Yes. So I do have another voluntary initiative, which is Third Planet Collective, which looks at the environment, but that's essentially performance, ensuring our Earth is being able to perform at its best. But when I talk about peak performance in my work, it's the ability to have long-term performance, to keep going day in, day out, rather than crash and burn. And everyone can perform and hold their breath for a few weeks or a few years even, but real peak performance is I feel good at the end of every day. I know that I can do this again, and I want to do it again the next day.
Otherwise, it'll just, it'll catch up with you. I mean, if you've got a stressful environment, you're likely to burn out, and then there's overwhelm. So, in terms of practical change within the workplace, and or not necessarily even within the workplace, but in your day-to-day life, what can people do to improve their energy and their focus?
Yeah, I think well, for me, what I've noticed is people very much focus on what they can do more of. And I think we need to strip it back to what we can do less of. So we talk about things like productivity tactics and tools and systems and all these hacks we can have. But for me, the simplest thing we can do as human beings is just think, I need to take a rest. I need to have some recovery time before I get to the next thing, before I jump to the next task. So often in the workplace, we are so focused on productivity being fingers on keyboards or seeing someone doing. And actually, those little breaks between exercises, between activities, they give our brain the energy to get back up to a good level so it can carry on throughout the day. So techniques like the Pomodoro technique, which you probably heard
Oh,
of,
what's
where
that?
we oh, you haven't? Okay. I know
No.
you've heard of it. No. So it's just a very simple technique where people work in a sprint for 25 minutes and you focus on one task and you just get that task done, or as many sprints as it takes to do that task. And between every 25-minute sprint, you have a 5-minute break, but you get away from your computer, you don't check your emails, you maybe just stand up and, look at the sky or something. And that just helps your brain to re-energize, to restore, because otherwise what happens is we kind of go in this decline throughout the day. And by the end of the day, you've got a headache, you can't think straight, you make poor decisions.
Yeah.
So having that little break before you need it, it's almost like drinking water before you're thirsty. So you know that when you're thirsty, it means you're already dehydrated. If we drink the water first, we keep up a good level of hydration. So keeping up that good level of energy just means having the breaks before you really need them.
That's a really good idea. It's like recalibration, isn't it? So I
Yeah.
like that. I might try doing that on my day-to-day life.
It helps with focus, definitely, because
Yeah.
if I've got 25 minutes to check my emails, you're giving yourself those mini deadlines as well.
Yeah.
So it keeps you focused.
Yeah, no, that. I like that. And I've not heard of that before, which is unlike me because I'm usually across most things that are holistic and helpful. Um, Now, you obviously work with top leaders and organizations. What are the biggest mistakes or the most common mistakes you see that hold people back from reaching their full potential in the workplace?
Yeah, there are a few things that make the difference. First thing is people under assessing or undermining their own ability. So maybe they think, I can't do this, or I'm not meant to be a top performer or a peak performer. So their own mindsets hold them back.
Mm.
But more than mindset, a lot of the time it's the environment we're in. So the people we associate with, the systems and the structures that are set up that help us to perform at our best or not. And even if you're around someone who is motivated and consistent and they want to perform at their best, you're more likely to want to do the same. So when you're around people who don't want to go the extra mile or they don't want to do the best job they can do every day, it brings you down as well. So
Mm.
we can't underestimate the power of the environment we're in and the conditions that creates.
Yeah, that is really important. I know that, it's like when you're growing up as a child, the crowds that you mix in are really important. And, if they're not working out, exercising, being positive, then generally you'll kind of fall into that norm, because that's who you're surrounding yourself with. Let's get into the holistic approach then, because I love this. So obviously you kind of integrate mindset, nutrition, fitness, and I think we are one organ, and we do have to look at ourselves and the bigger picture, I think, and rather than just be very linear. But why is the holistic approach essential for professional success?
In my view, you can't be the best you can be without focusing on the human being first. So we're not computers, we're not AI. And we see AI now is just doing things, it's outpacing us, it's able to do things so much faster. So we can't compete just by saying, I'm gonna work longer hours, I'm gonna do the same.
Mm.
And as humans, if we aren't getting enough sleep, we're not able to concentrate as well the next day. We're not able to make as good quality decisions. We're not able to focus on the work we're meant to be doing, or even build connections with people as effectively. So for me, if we're focusing on, firstly, the mind, because the mind drives everything, that's really, really important. So how do we want to approach each day? How do we develop our resilience and our mental toughness? All of those factors that are going to help us to be the best we can be every day. That's the one thing. But then we need to think about, are we eating the right foods that are going to help us to stay focused after lunch? Or do we go into meetings? I go into so many meetings and training sessions, for example, with clients, and there are white bread sandwiches and
White food
cakes.
everywhere. A beige sort of banquet.
Beige, that's
Yeah.
it, yeah. And then afterwards, in the afternoon, you're like, I've got this really important topic that I want you all to be fully focused on. And you can see people are like, they're getting that afternoon slump.
Mm.
So the fuel, our brains need the right fuel to keep us alert, keep us active, keep us doing what we're meant to be doing. And we don't use that enough. We forget that we're humans, and the physiology plays such a large part in our focus and our attention and our just our ability to be energized throughout the day. And then in terms of the what else we have, training, like exercise,
Mm.
I know myself when I used to work in banking, and the ergonomics maybe weren't so great for the desk. You get backaches and neck pains and all those things, and people push through, but there's an impact because it's not sustainable. It's not something that we can carry on with on a long-term basis. At some point, we're going to have to go and book the doctor or the physio or have an operation. So we're not being that productive when we just ignore all of the human aspects of who we are.
So, out of curiosity, if you were to put a spread on, if you were having a business sort of powwow throughout the day, what sort of foods would you put on the table for everybody
So
to eat?
great question. Great question. I personally love, it has to have a lot of protein. So any kind of protein like fish, I like sashimi. I wouldn't say the whole sushi because it's got all the rice and the white
Yeah.
rice and the carbs that kind of make you fall asleep as well. But generally, if you've got that mix of the carbs and the protein, that's great, as opposed to just white bread sandwiches and rolls and things that just make us fall asleep.
Crisps.
I'd have things like definitely lots of water, even fruit infused water, flavored water like that, but natural flavors.
Yeah.
Probably smoothies, things with nuts and seeds are really good for the brain.
Yeah.
Just things that you can identify, like real foods that you can easily pick as well. So blueberries, because they're easy to pick as finger food. A lot of the time, people put sweets in bowls. You could put nuts, pistachios, things like that, which
Yeah.
actually give you the nutrition. And you'll probably be so much more focused
We've got
after
into
that.
really bad habits, haven't we, with food, and we're being conditioned to think what a snack is, and a snack, I mean, for me, I grew up eating crisps, copious amounts of crisps every day. And now when I go out into an office environment or a filming environment, whatever I am doing, if I see crisps and sandwiches halfway through the day, that's what your body's ready to eat, but it's not going to help you in the afternoon. It's like,
Absolutely.
no, you need to get out of this mindset. And it fascinates me that more and more businesses don't look at what they're feeding, in their staff and their employees in these meetings, because they're not going to be getting the best out of them throughout the day. So if companies want to elevate their teams, then what are the biggest benefits of investing in peak performance training? And
People,
how do you implement it within a business?
yeah. So people again forget that it's not just the technical skills that are going to drive a top performing team. People tend to focus very much on just the technical side of things. And actually, if you just do some of the things we've discussed, so
Mm,
simply being more conscious about how your team have breaks, how much time they have to reset and restore, what are the foods available to them in the vending machines and at these different meetings and lunches, that's going to really dial up performance without us having to do a lot of work, and it's underestimated. So
yeah,
one of the main things companies can do is start to think about how focusing on the whole person, the mind, the body, as well as the technical stuff, is going to really make their teams better, happier, healthier. They're going to have more energy. They're going to be able to go the extra mile. They'll probably make better decisions because their brains are clearer. They will hopefully have a return on investment because they'll see that in their people. The turnover will be lower, sick days will be lower. We see lots of research and news about this all the time where people are saying that they're burning out at work, they take sick days, they have to take sick leave because they can't cope. And a lot of this can be avoided if we just think about how we restore that balance in the way that we operate.
so Can you think of a real example where you've gone in to a business and turned something around and had a really lovely sort of, feedback from it?
Yeah, I've done during the pandemic. Actually, I did a program for one of the banks I used to work at. Actually, but I went in and did online an energizing leadership program, and it was really good because we weren't focused on the technical things of how to be a great leader. You know, the usual kind of training on, I don't know, communication skills and negotiation and influence and all those factors.
Yeah.
We were focused on how do you role model to your teams the energy that you give out, the emotional contagion that goes out, and how do you make sure that you are the role model for your teams in terms of how you appear, your body language, the way you even look, because people don't aspire to become a boss who's burnt out and at 55 years old is just kind of not able to move, and the energy that comes from that just isn't exuding. So in that particular situation, it was great because we got everyone out during the pandemic, taking photos of all of the things they were doing to keep their fitness in their focus, to make sure that they were picking good food choices, thinking about even the words they were using that were energizing words, as opposed to just not even thinking about the language and how that can impact their teams. And it goes back to what I said about people. When we are around the right people, we all lift up. So that was a really nice experience. And, just having the photographs to see what people were doing, I think
Yeah.
everyone was inspired by everyone else as a result of that, which was then inspiring for their teams at the same time.
Yeah, it's funny. We've just got into such negative and poor work habits, I think, over the last sort of 30, 40 years, and we're just starting to turn it. But I think we've still got so much of a journey to go, because I am seeing it, and it's something that I've implemented in my personal life, and I hope that I impart that with my team. But if I was a big, huge corporation that had been in a situation for so long, 20, 30 years, then it's so much harder to turn it around. But it's so important. And these steps are really simple steps. And, to implement them is not huge. And they make such a difference. So I'm so glad that you joined us today. What do you love most about speaking, Abigail?
That's a great question. I hadn't thought about that one. I just love sharing what I've learned over the years with other people, and I love seeing people take it on board, implement it, and then even just when you hear back from people to say, "Oh, I took your advice and I did this, or I tried this out and it really works." And like you say, it's sometimes the smallest things.
Yeah.
We don't think about how we breathe, or swapping the fruit bowl, bringing in a fruit bowl instead of a bowl full of cookies, for example. We don't think about how those simple things can make such a
Mm.
difference.
Yeah.
So when I'm passionate about what I'm talking about, I love to share that with other people and just to see people make those changes as well.
Changing habits, isn't it? And apparently, isn't there a set amount of times that you need to do something for it to become a habit? Is it like 7 times, I believe, or something? Maybe
Yeah,
less than that.
there's all sorts of things around depending on what the habit is, like how many days it takes to create a habit. And I think there's one range of like 66 days on average, but people are always busting the research.
Yeah.
But yeah, like habits is the key thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's if you can just think, what can I do to just be 1% better every day? That's the
Yeah.
mindset that I have, and just continuously learning as well, thinking
Yeah.
about what you can do, what you can pick up from different places to grow your mind, and how can you tweak the foods you eat? How can
Mm.
you tweak your sleep schedule a little bit? All of those things make such a huge difference.
And it all makes such sense. Thank you so much for your time today, Abigail. I've really enjoyed chatting to you.
No, lovely to speak to you. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you. And if you'd like to book Abigail for your next event to drive the future success of your business, then just call us on 01753 439 289, or you can email me directly, jane@greatbritishtalent.com. Thank you.